Good morning and welcome to Eduscope. My name remains Dr. Iruro Stephen Izu. Happy new month. Today is the first day of December 2023. Now, it feels good to be alive. It feels good to be healthy. It feels good to be optimistic. Now, the situations in Nigeria, they are already very bad. They are bad enough. So there is no need in trying to compound them, by being pessimistic. So we must be optimistic because optimism is a choice of the wise. So on today's edition of EduSchool, we're going to be looking at the paradox of budget without implementation. The paradox of budget without implementation. Now, our country, has been, abundantly considered, as the graveyard of good policies, good, programs, good, action plans, and so on and so forth. Now, because often good policies are made, good decisions are taken, good budgets, are passed, but there is no commensurate, implementation that will bring about the realization of the intent and purposes, of such decisions, policies, and budgets. Why is this the case? And how do we avoid future occurrences, of failed budget implementation in Nigeria? Now, just the day before yesterday, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu presented to the National Assembly, a budget of 27.5 trillion naira. It is the biggest so far since 1999 till date. It is the biggest. But it is not the humongous size, of the budget that determines its effective implementation. It is not the humongous size, of the budget that determines the effective implementation of the budget. Now, it takes determination, it takes conscious action, conscious effort, conscious commitment, to realize, the intents and purposes of the budget and to translate, the naira and kobo, stated, as estimates in the budget, to material development and enhancement, of the citizens' lives. So what are the obstacles that have been challenging budget implementation in Nigeria? Now we must understand the fact that the budget that has been presented or proposed, to by the President National Assembly is not very perfect. It's a deficit budget. It's a deficit budget. That means somehow there will still be bed tightening, there will still be austerity measures to some extent, there will still be increase in taxation, and so on and so forth. There will be increase in borrowing because the budget is likely going to be funded, through borrowing. Now, I don't want to go into the issue of whether or not borrowing is bad, and why we have gotten to this stage, because in our next video, when we shall be looking at the paradox of resources without riches, we'll explore this, in detail. But let us focus, for now, on the reasons why our budget keep failing, because studies have shown that in Nigeria, since 1990 to date, we have not had up to we have not transcended 30% implementation of our budgets. But I often say that our budgets are always implemented. It's just that it is not implemented, to the advantage of the citizens, because you see the funds for the budget are always released. However, the project for which the funds are released are not executed. The monies are pocketed, put in the private pockets, of individuals. That means fraud, corruption, are some of the indicators of a failed budget, implementation in Nigeria. So now we have a budget of 27.5 trillion naira, 27.5 trillion naira. Now it looks humongous, but how can this be translated into reality? Now I'm going to discuss seven things, seven factors that have inhibited budget implementation in Nigeria. Now the first one is political will, lack of political will. Now, if the president is considered to be weak, to be somebody who is not proactive, now people will take him for granted. The members of his cabinet, the ministers, the directors, the MDs, DGs, they will take it for granted. Now, the president must show political will and must be ready to fire anybody that is not performing up to optimum. There is nothing that is an alternative to optimum, optimal performance in office. If a minister is not performing, there's no point keeping a minister for 8 years. And that was one of the reasons why the immediate past president failed. How can you keep ministers for 8 years who are not even performing? They're not civil servants. They don't have security of tenure or security of tenure in office. They can be removed, and they should be removed. So the president must wear the big stick against any non-performing minister, any non-performing DG or MD, and bring in fresh blood. The system. Our country does not revolve around only one individual or only one tribe or only one religion or only one region or only one state. No individual is bigger than Nigeria. We have a lot of bright minds, bright brains in Nigeria that can be brought in to replace anybody. So the president must, exhibit, real political will, for the implementers, for the bureaucrats, for all those who are, in the implementation chain of the budget, to be on their feet, to implement, the budget to the letter. So lack of political will has been one of the obstacles to effective budget implementation in Nigeria. Political will in terms of the president's ability to take action, decisive action, in the area of appointing, and hiring people that will do the job with dispatch. Now, the second factor that inhibited our effective budget implementation in Nigeria is lack of capacity. Lack of capacity. Now, our civil servants, our bureaucrats, many of them are, are not skilled enough, to be able to rise up to the challenge of budget implementation. That means the president must prioritize training and retraining, of civil servants, right sizing, of the civil service or the public service, making sure that those who can do the job, are placed in position of priority to implement the budget, the way it should be implemented. There is no point, bringing mediocres, to come and implement a budget that is so important that will affect, over 200 million Nigerians. So the capacity of our public servants, must be enhanced through training, and retraining. Because without capacity, no matter how much you are budgeted or no matter how much you give to any office, they will squander it. They will misapply the money, and of course, to detriment of the larger, citizenry. Now, the third factor that has militated against effective budget implementation in Nigeria is corruption. Corruption. Now, where public funds, are diverted into private, coffers, that has been one of the menaces, threatening the collective existence of Nigeria. Dr. Ogozo Okonjo-Iweala said that in every case of corruption, there is the demand side and there is the supply side. There are the takers and there are the givers. So now President Bola Ahmed Tinubu must be forthright enough, to put up mechanism that will block all leakages, against the demand and the demanders, and the suppliers, of corrupt, tendencies, bribes, tips, and so on and so forth. Because corruption has destroyed our chances of having very good roads, very good bridges, very good rail lines, and so on and so forth. So corruption must be dealt with. The president must be forthright, to ensure that the fight against corruption is dispassionate, and impartial. And impartial. Now, the fourth factor that has, hindered our, effective budget implementation in Nigeria is inaccurate statistics. Inaccurate statistics. If you look at the National Bureau of Statistics in Nigeria, you see they often shun out, dish out, data that are inaccurate, are incorrect. Sometimes it's deliberate misinformation and disinformation. The data, are politicized. And so you can't use the data for any meaningful, planning or even development. Now, where you have falsified data, distorted data, politicized data, that means you are in a big problem. So President Bola Ahmed Tinubu must institute a body of independent statisticians, a body of independent statisticians, a body of independent data collectors, so that you can have accurate data on the number of unemployed Nigerians, on the number of youths, on the number of women, on the number of men, on the number of children, out of school children, on the number, on the total megawatts that we have in the country, on the number of bad federal roads, on the number of bad state roads, on the number of bad local government roads, on the number of bad bridges, and so on and so forth. We must have dispassionate data collectors, not people who falsify, who distort, who fabricate, data, to cover their own lapses of inability to go to the field to get accurate data for which they are paid for which they are paid. So now the fifth factor that has hindered budget implementation in Nigeria is indiscipline. Indiscipline. Indiscipline among the civil servants. Indiscipline. Now there are many civil servants in Nigeria, even though they are employed, they are jobless. They are employed, but they are jobless. And because they are jobless, they don't have any assignment in their offices. They engage in petty businesses that are antithetical to their performance in their offices. They do buying and selling. They sell. They bring cake to the office to sell. They bring drink to the office to sell. They bring all manner of things to the office to sell. They become traders in the office. So you will be able to differentiate those who are core civil servants and those who are trader, civil servants. The government must watch, for these people and weed them out of the system. Weed them out of the system. Because the civil servants, they are the heart of budget implementation. So it's not enough for the president and his team, the budget ministry to make good budgets and national assembly to pass the budget into law, and for some civil servants who are careless, who are reckless, to scuttle the beauty of this budget. So a sense of the spirit of the spirit of discipline must be instilled and instituted, inculcated into the minds of everybody. And by so doing, we begin to have a very good, a very robust implementation of our budgets. Now, the last factor that I believe has been hindering implementation of budget is the factor of delay, delay in the release of funds, delay in the release of funds. Government must ensure, the Ministry of Finance, the Central Bank of Nigeria must ensure that the allocated funds are released, to the relevant MDAs with dispatch to carry out their activities, and there must be monitoring and evaluation through the Senate and House of Reps oversight function on the MDAs. You don't just make laws, and allow the laws to just slip off. You make laws and you carry out oversight function to ensure that those whom you have made the laws for, they are actually carrying out the laws to the letter to accommodate the intent and the purposes of the law. The budget is a law when it has been passed, through the stages, of lawmaking and has been ascended by the president. It becomes a law. So the National Assembly must ensure, that oversight function is carried out to ensure monitoring and evaluation of the budget implementation, stages. We cannot afford to do things the way they are being done, and expect different results. So I believe so strongly, that as we do this, we begin to see improvements, in our political economy, and the challenges of Nigeria will gradually fizzle away. It's not a day's job, but they are solvable. They are salvageable. They're not things that cannot be, solved. So these are the seven, factors that have been hindering, our budget implementation. And when they are solved or when they are tackled, we can have very robust, very advantageous, budget and cycle in Nigeria. On our next video, I want to thank you so much, and I want to implore you to subscribe to the channel, and then leave your comments, and share this video to as far and wide so that the appropriate authorities can begin to see this video. Thank you very much, and have a great month.